Well, I'm feeling rather inspirational this morning, and I'd like to start with a quote from Nelson Mandela, which says that what counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived, it is what difference we have made to the life of others that will determine the significance in the life that we lead. So good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Maokbe Ogun Yusuf. It's 29 degrees here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. I wonder what it is like in Lagos. Ayo.
It's just 28 degrees here in Lagos, and please, wherever else you are, do yourself a favor and check the weather. Amaya Makine, good morning and welcome. Today is December 1. Well, going by what Mark said earlier, the inspirational quote, we want to find out how much have you influenced people's lives over the past 11 months, be you in government or not.
Well, speaking about inspiration, Ayo, you know, recently over the weekend, interestingly, I had cause to be in Lagos over the weekend, and the weather was very different. It was very different to that of Abuja. As a matter of fact, it rained. It rained just as I was on 3rd Mainland Bridge, and I was like, what? It's all dry in Abuja, but hey, I digress. I was talking about inspiration, and a list came out over the weekend, you know, a long-awaited list, the ambassadorial list a lot of people had been waiting for. Don't forget that in the wake of this crisis we had with the United States, a lot of people had made reference to the fact that we did not have ambassadors with key partners of Nigeria. And that was one of the reasons that we saw the degeneration, it was seen, of relations. Otherwise, perhaps we would not have gotten to where we got to with the United States. And as a result of that, we saw the appointment of 3 ambassadors initially to 3 key countries, the United States, the United Kingdom, and then France. And then over the weekend, this list came out with 30 more ambassadors. And a number of people said, nah, this list is not inspiring in any way. They say, yeah, there are a few names there that they like, but, you know, a lot of the names they find questionable. And, well, we're going to be getting viewpoints on that. I'm sure that, you know, well, that conversation already started on our sister program, Morning Brief. If you missed it, if you missed the perspective of career ambassadors and a politician, you might want to watch that. But just in case you missed it, you can also continue right here on Sunrise Daily. And we already have our guests seated. We have Comrade Ini Emelbong, who is the National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party. They have issued a very strong statement denouncing that particular list. And we also have here Mr. Jacob Pele, who is the founder of TAF Africa. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning.
Well, I'm going to start by asking, Mr. Epele, I already told you that I will be very honest. I actually did think that, you know, you'll be fine fit to represent our country. And I'm a little, you know, disappointed that your name, well, maybe they said there's another list that's coming out, you know, maybe.
I like the job I have.
You do?
I like the fact that I can impact lives directly. I don't want, as a matter of fact, when they want to take you out of space, they give you ambassadorial appointment. So I'm not looking forward to it at all. And of course, you would have been consulted. And at the point of consulting, I would have put it down straight away. And I hope that wouldn't have disappointed people like you.
Okay, well, I do hope that whenever
I think I've been anointed to do what I'm doing. I don't need an appointment.
Indeed, and we can always extend the anointing, but, you know, I digress. I want to ask you if you found this list inspirational.
You know, Mark, I wanted to let the politicians handle the political aspects of this whole discussion. But now you're pushing me into it.
I have not asked a political question. Inspiring is... we can all be inspired, can we?
Not really, with some of the names that I saw there. I'm not inspired because those names have expired as far as I'm concerned. There are too many people that have been in the political space and all kinds of spaces and with very little contributions. I think I want to say this, Mark. I'm not a diplomat, but I have been around diplomats for a very long time. Those who are responsible for this kind of appointment must know that when you appoint someone who is seen as an individual with political interest and mostly political baggages, that it affects the way the country that will receive that ambassador will treat that ambassador. If you're coming from, take for instance, one of the persons that made that list, with all the issues that that individual has, when he goes to any country, it's going to play out. Especially when it touches on democracy, it's going to play out. So it didn't very much inspire me, but I don't want to sound like a pessimist. Let me look at the optimistic aspect of it. And the optimistic aspect of it was the appointment of 10 women. I was happy.
Okay.
Yeah, I was very happy. That inspired me. Whether they have all the pedigree and all that. But Mark, I think I will leave in my good friend to postulate around the political implication. I want to zero in on what the Senate will do and the economic benefit of having ambassadors.
I think you're the first person to point out that the fact that we had up to 10. And I think I found it very difficult to really see the female names there, you know, till you pointed out. Maybe because, well, as you said, 10, maybe might be a pass mark. That's at least 1 over 3. But
well, it's a compromise number because I expected 50-50. What stops?
Exactly.
Why wouldn't even women be 60 and men 40?
And given all the other numbers, you know, and the week that we're entering, but hey, at least.
And sometimes they are better managers of this kind of, especially when it's chaotic. They are better managers of such situations.
Well, let's leave it at 10 over 32 and come to you, Shifini. You have spoken of comrade. You prefer to be called comrade. I've seen the release by the People's Democratic Party, and yeah, it was a strong condemnation. He said the People's Democratic Party strongly condemns the list of ambassadorial nominees as submitted by President Bola Tinubu. When you do that, when you say you strongly condemn, and at the end of the day, when I read through the thing, you only had, you took objection to one name, was just one name, and that's the name of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, whom you had reservations with, because you think that it should not have been, I mean, let me read it in your words. I'm not going to paraphrase that. It says, specifically, we conveyed the disappointment of many right-thinking Nigerians on the nomination of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, the immediate past chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, whose administration of our electoral umpire was characterized by countless double-speaks, flip-flops, and undelivered promises, which ultimately resulted in the birth of this administration, which is struggling in all areas of governance. And you believe that the consequences of that would be that, you say, to offer him an ambassadorial appointment at a time like this is an excellent exemplar of a skewed reward system, which we suspect is designed as an incentive to the new INEC chairman. So this is basically your own fear. This is your worry, your concern. However, can you, on the basis of this one name, this one exception that you have, condemn a list of 32 people, including women, who rarely ever get appointed to anything?
Excellent. Just before that paragraph, you see that we had stated the caliber of people who have populated this list. And again, if you, and what we do as an opposition, a responsible opposition, is to also listen to the people and align with the people where that makes for the good of the country. And so the first thing is that we have said that generally, and when you look at that list generally, the prominent names you find there are names of characterless politicians, and we stated them. We didn't want to dignify, but we now particularly brought out one that sticks out as an outlier, a gentleman whom all of us are witnesses to the fact that the election management under him was far from fair. I mean, even if he were to score himself on the promises he made, or about IREV, about a backup system, about things, even if you give him the opportunity to score himself, he would be very nice to himself to give himself 49. So we made a sweeping statement that accommodates people. And again, we don't, you see, there are things we need to be careful not to do. There are repetitive engagements that you do, and some people get reward. There are people who actually like bad news. There are people who just like to stay in the news, whether it is good or bad. And so we made sure that we did not dignify their names. But on this case, the particular person we mentioned has everything to do with democracy. And again, we said, I mean, there are things of different levels. And we now drew out this one and said, even this one? So that list is fraught with people. I mean, their videos are coming out. People who are antagonistic to democracy, people who are antagonistic to a section of this country. And you see, when you become an ambassador, you now become the personal representative of the president in that country. And so if you have led a life where you have consistently attacked a section of the country, so how will the people from that section of the country in the country you'll be representing feel? And remember, Mark, that confidence is rooted in perception, which is why in law, the law says it is more important that justice is seen. If you replace seen with felt, which both of them are perceptive, you would now know that the perception is a very strong value, despite being initially subjective. An amalgamation of subjective values, which become an agreement, now takes on the life of intersubjectivity that has power. So immediately, if three of us are in the room, irrespective of how nice your dress looks, if there are 5 people in this room who now agree, Mark, that your dress doesn't look fine, do you know it would affect even the objective? Because, I mean, what was previously subjective, his opinion, my opinion, 3 other people's opinion, has now become an agreement and now has the force of intersubjectivity that you need to look at yourself in a mirror. That is the power of perception. So the question is, how are these people perceived?
Yeah, but the idea is, you know, the idea of having this conversation is so we can be objective. On the basis of what it is that you have now said, I mean, on the basis of the admission that you had a problem with 1 or 2 names, and it's very interesting that this list is divided into 2. We have 32 names in all. We have 17 non-career ambassador nominees, which is where most of the objections are. And if you were to ask me, using my own journalistic eye, I bet I cannot see more than 3 of the names that you might have any problems with, or perhaps 4 that you have any problems with. And then you come down to where you have the career ambassador nominees, where you have about another 15 or so names. And there is no problem there. At least nobody has raised any objection. Can we, on the basis of that, strongly condemn an entire list and make all of these people feel like they're inadequate?
No. You see, when we get to it, everyone knows where the conversation lies, is with the non-career ambassadors. The career ambassadors are fine. But again, you know that it just takes one bad inclusion. And look, it doesn't matter the sea of good people. When you see a white sheet and one small black dot, we generally see the black dot. We don't see the sea of whiteness, because you would be defining that whole work by that black dot. So when you look at it, the question is, what are the duties of an ambassador? When this problem materializes in the future, you would not remember the career ambassadors. In fact, these few people, which you term as few, and again, we're very careful to be sure that we situate it, we contextualize it. Even among the list of the women, I'm sure, look, an ambassador must be a person of impeccable character, capable of representing not just the president who is the appointer, but the country. And so at some point you would ask yourself, did it take the president almost 3 years to... It means this is the best he can come up with. With due apologies to the people who are of impeccable character, whose names have been found on that list. And remember, when we had this conversation, he clearly said, look, if I had been given, I would clearly reject. There are people you should not be found in company with, because it would rub off. So whether they are in the minority or they are in the majority, the discussions today And which is why I'm sure there are a lot of people who even expected it are very happy that their names are not there. Because you would have to paint them, you would look at them from the prison. Even look at how the list, in terms of the ranking, how the list was done. Look at monitor conversations. All of us, and it's not sectional conversations, it's generic. You're going to see generic. And it's coming organically, it's not sponsored. And again, why we spoke about it as a political party is that we are the main opposition party, and we must do the work of the opposition, which is keeping the government in check for the good of the country. Not to bring, which is why we're not questioning the discretion of the president, but we are questioning the exercise, the philosophical underpinning that this president, remember what happened to the list of clemency and pardon. It took a lot of shout from people. And so at times you must be fair to the president to say, Mr. President, have you looked at this again? Are you listening to the mood of the country? At a time when this country is bleeding like this, characters who have held very strong opinions about some sections of the country, who have been very divisive, at a time when this country needs healing. So when you send such characters out, would they help to heal? Would they help to portray a united country? Would they help to portray a country that is in need of help to consolidate their democracy?
Questions. These are the questions, and I want to believe they're not rhetorical questions. Over to you, Ayo.
Thank you, Mokwe. You know, one of the questions that have been raised, and let me start with you, Mr. Pele. One of the questions that some people have raised, particularly, people, some elements among us in the country, have raised issues about whether or not there is full compliance with the federal character as expected. There are those who have listed the fact that, okay, from the north there's social number, there's south, from the south there's social number, and then from the southwest there's the highest number, and they are questioning whether the appointments are skewed or not. Checking, you find out that it's at the discretion of the president. No one else can make these suggestions. It's all the president, but it has to still go to the Senate. We'll come back to that, as you have also said, Mr. Pele. So what are your thoughts on that balance, that federal character balance? Do you think there's any issue of concern there?
Yeah, political appointment in general does not, it's a political chess game. They don't respect federal character. They don't respect the perception of the people. They don't have no regard for what the people think. Remember that these appointments are made by cabals, just a handful of people that are very close to the president that will advise him, let's take this person, let's take that person. And in the context of this, I don't know who advised Mr. President about Mahmoud, who happens to be, I don't deny friends. He's a good friend of mine. You know, that I thought that Prof should have been relaxing, maybe in his country home, or going back to the university to teach. I have no idea that he's still interested in political office. But that's up to him. But that's one appointment that I take with a pinch of salt. I don't think that the president was properly advised, but it's almost a case of I just don't care. Everybody serves at my pleasure, and that's the Mr. President, so he has a right to appoint who. But when you are doing this appointment, you must feel the pulse of the nations. You must understand the intricacies around diplomacy, knowing fully well that any country you send someone with political baggage, that country would treat that person almost like a wimp. There's certain information they will never give to the person. There's certain meetings that they will never call the person. So it happens. So for instance, if Mahmoud ends up in the US, it will be a disaster for us. Because already they believe that he was not very friendly with democracy, you know. So that will be, it will spell doom, you know. I don't know any of the Western countries. Maybe these African countries, yes, can tolerate him. But that's not a good nominee for the interest of what is happening around us, especially within the global circle. you know.
Anyway,
that's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you see? It sounds
federal
like
character was not.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Like a broken record, Ayo. Federal character was not respected in this context. It was more of political tokenism and doing favors to those that had done one thing or the other for them. You know,
okay.
That's just what it is. It's
All right.
like, look,
yeah.
you
Comrade,
wash my
let me come
hands.
to Comrade Ememobong on this issue as well. Well, you said, you know, Mr. Pender, that we should leave the political talk to him, so let's leave it to him. Now, Mr. Ememobong, I beg your pardon, Comrade, you know, one of the issues that you have raised, maybe you want to first of all speak to that federal character ambit as well in the entire scheme of things. How strongly do you think it plays in the polity, or you think it's just one thing any president, even a PDP president, would have done?
Well, first is that when things assume regularity, you no longer complain about it. I said somewhere this morning that be careful what you're exposed to, because when you are exposed to anomaly, after a while you normalize it. And so the issue of disregard for federal character and a skewed disposition towards appointment has been a trademark of the APC administration, not just this one. And so the hue and cry about the skewed nature in favor of some regions over some have not yielded anything. So that's why that discussion becomes very pedestrian, because immediately you say that, they say, oh no, but the last administration did this. So I think the APC administration, the current APC administration, is battling with the ghost of the past, where they are trying to outdo each other in who will be more primordial, who will be more disposed to some regions. But the more important thing is every region has capable hands. So even if you're being patronizing, even if you're looking at some regions, why not get the best from those regions? Because immediately you do so, the Constitution says that the president gives the president discretion in appointment, but insists that it must satisfy federal character. But we're hoping that in the remaining
do you think that
parts,
are you saying that the federal character has not been complied with at all?
Yeah, so in the remaining parts, we hope they will try. There are states that are not represented there. And for example, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, but other states have 2 other regions. So when you compartmentalize it into states, into regions, you see the vacuum that lies there. But again, my worry with drilling down on some of these narratives is the capacity, the divisive capacity that it has, you know, and we're already at a very polarized state in our country. So sometimes we try to hope that we can sidestep some of this in the hope that the federal government themselves would try to understand and recalibrate themselves to ensure that every part of this country feels equally carried along and feels happy about things. Because Ayo, when you drill down on this, I mean, 2 people seated together can begin to get annoyed. And immediately the narrative gets to the point of regionalization. You see, it becomes so subjective that people leave the objective part of the character, the disposition, the knowledge, the temperament of people, and begin to, while it is a very important conversation because it's a constitutional demand, but I am very careful of further dividing an already divided country.
Which leads me to the next question to you, Comrade. You know, Makwe asked you that question about the total condemnation of the list by your party, the People's Democratic Party. Now, there are 15 career ambassadors on that list, 15. Lumping them all together is like throwing away the baby with the bathwater. I mean, I agree with you totally that doing anything, the whole idea of bringing up these issues is for us to diminish whatever the divisive intents or tendencies may be, and I'm glad that you are the one that is speaking to that. Now, there are other narratives, people who are speaking in that light already, condemning whatever it is that comes from the federal government. It happened under a PDP government. Anything that comes from the federal government is first of all condemned before we see the values in it. Now, that comment is ongoing there. So for the PDP to totally condemn this list of at least 15 career ambassadors of 32. And as you said, we don't have the complete list yet. So do you think that's a justifiable thing to have done as a political party, supposedly the leading opposition party in Nigeria?
When you look at our press statement, you're going to see we started from general to specific, then we profiled an alternative, which is what every reasonable opposition party should do. We're not in the mode of condemning every single thing the president has done. If we're doing so, well, despite the fact that if we adopt the template of the APC when they were in the opposition, that is what we should have been doing. But because the PDP is more responsible, and the PDP is more interested in the cohesive disposition that must reign over this country. That is why you saw that when the chairman of our party, Turaki SAN, went to Kebbi, he commended government for the efforts, either rescue, either freed, either people who were found, whatever the term is. He was excited that those people came, and he commended government for it. But he now further said, can we prevent this from happening again? This opposition commends government when they do well, but we also must point out where they are not doing well. So, for example, when you look at that statement, we have established the people we are condemning. So if there are career diplomats who fall into people of doublespeak, people of who are characterless, then that is it. But what are we saying? We're saying that generally we condemn the list because they came in one list. They didn't come in separate lists. The release that brought their names came in one list. And therefore, even if it was just one person who polluted that list, then you condemn. And we are asking the president to extricate such characters and reappoint people of value and character. Now, so when you look at that whole list, you're going to see that even within the non-career ambassadors, you see people of character. And what are we saying? Are we opposing them? No. We are saying you can reappoint. But can you withdraw this list? Look at this list again. If more than 20 to 30% of your list is bad, then, I mean, that's sufficient for you to have a look at it. At a time like this in this country, and you're talking about diplomacy. It's taken almost 3 years to get to this point, and you're making mistakes after 3 years. You're putting people that the entire country is in an uproar about. You're putting people whose videos are coming out, who had rejected the appointment long before you gave them. You're putting people whom a section of this country are saying, look, this person has consistently exhibited hate speech against us, and we are not comfortable. I mean, even if it's just one person. At a time like this in this country, when the president needs all the support that he can get to be able to fight insecurity, because the primary duty of every administration is the protection of lives and property. It's a serious matter.
Well, let me quickly take you up on that issue of federal character, because while you were speaking, I just, did a cursory analysis of this, and I see that we have 24 states in total, where people were appointed from out of the 36, so clearly 12 states did not get any appointment. Of the 24 states that were mentioned in the appointment, 11 states are in the north and 13 states are in the south. I haven't taken, I see that up to 3 appointments, for instance, were from Abia, from the southeast, up to 3 from Adamawa. I also see that 2 were from Borno. What else do we see here? 2 from Mondo, 2 from Katsina, 2 from Plateau. Lagos has 2 as well. Osun has 2. So it was saying that when we look at federal character, in this particular instance, given the fact that we haven't exactly exhausted the entire, can we really say that federal character wasn't really respected here? Because what would we have expected? Every name, every state must be represented in 32 names?
You want me to take that first?
Yes.
Okay,
please.
so that's why I said when you compartmentalize that information, you see, data stands neutral. It depends on how you drill on it. So if you do that in terms of region, I'm sure it's going to tell a different picture. But Mark, why in heaven's dear name would you even exclude one state? It's a feeling. Remember that you said it seems. Now, and confidence is rooted in feeling. Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you said to them. They will never forget how you made them feel. So how do you think the people in Akwa Ibom and Cross River are feeling? How do you think the people in the 12 states that have not been accommodated will make? And this is not something that the president had an ultimatum. He had waited almost 3 years. And so why not just do it? So why do you think that someone who sits somewhere in a state where his state has not been included and sees that some states have as much as 3. I mean, it doesn't just add up. Are you saying that you couldn't have done it? Which goes to the reactionary disposition of this administration on very serious issues. You see, so there's insecurity, more policemen. Just train them, mince them out, mince them and send them to the field. Or there's insecurity, release forest guards. We can't be reactionary. You must take a 360 view. Why is this important now? When you look at those missions abroad, they are terribly underfunded. And as we speak now, another issue will be coming up. So, oh, we have had issues with America, and everyone has been saying, if we had an ambassador, it wouldn't have been this bad. Okay, the first 3. Oh, no, let's add. Why? I mean, you have all the time, and like you said, you should have a thinking cabinet. You have all the time in the world. You have experienced diplomats who are with the president, the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
I'm glad you raised that issue of funding, which was critical. I mean, you were no stranger to the conversations that happened within the diplomatic circle, and even the statement that was released by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, acknowledging the deficit, the fact that a lot of missions have been unable to meet up with funding, not because they didn't want to fund, but because of the shortfalls as a result of our budget and the fact that we devalued the naira. We're even unable to pay staff their salaries in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that, you know, we had sent to our different missions. And so a lot of people said, well, maybe that's one of the reasons why we have held back. From what you now see, are you confident? Because I'll be very honest with you. It takes a lot for the government, any government, and this is in my own experience, to admit that money is a problem. Yeah. So when you now have a situation where the Ministry of Foreign Affairs had to openly acknowledge that funding has been a problem, I'm asking myself, have we really been able to sort that out now? Or is this just being done so that at least we the tension can go down? Have we set up these ambassadors for failure? There are big questions to ask in this regard. What's your thinking in that regard?
Well, that's why you need a very disciplined, very prudent leader as an ambassador. Sometimes the problem is not that government is not releasing money. If you are smart and you're given an organization to run, there are many ways you can make sure that the organization does not sink. By the way you conduct yourself, by the way you manage the resources that you're given, by the way you're able to set up the template for direct investment into your country. Definitely, knowing fully well these politicians and their temperament and the way they do things, they're going to give them money to go. They're not going to just appoint them and send them, go there, there's no money. It's not going to happen. They're going to give them money. Will they be prudent? Will they be able to manage it effectively? Are we going to get results? That's a whole lot of conversation that we can delve into. But also, to just a point of correction, we don't have 32, we have 35.
Okay, yeah, for the initial 3, that's where I pointed earlier.
So we do have 35.
I didn't include their names here.
Yeah, there is a likelihood that there'll be more appointments. While we are crying over this spilled milk, and I don't like some of the faces that I saw there, there's no doubt about that. Let's go to the next phase, Ini. The next phase is, what will the Senate do? Because when the president appoints, all of us are depending on the legislative arm to rescue us, to tell the president no. You know, do I have faith in this current Senate and their capacity, not their capacity, their ability to question what the president have done? I don't think so. I don't think that Akpabio-led Senate have that ability to say no to the president. He is fast becoming, and his leadership, they're fast becoming a rubber stamp of Aso Rock. Whatever Aso Rock says. I mean, listening to him the other day, he was calling the first lady, the mother, our mother. We are his children. I mean, that's uncalled for. For a Senate president, the first lady is not even number 4. You are the number 3 in the line of leadership hierarchy. And you're saying that, I respect the First Lady. I give it to her. You know, she's carried herself well. But that doesn't make the legislator calling themselves the children to the president's wife. You know, so definitely when they are appointed, they'll probably improve in making sure that they are funded. But it's one thing to fund you, is another thing for you to be prudent, responsible, and be able to manage what you're given and get results.
I'm just going to ask very quickly, though. I mean, I think the conversation around the controversy has taken away the fact that people should have expectations of the ambassadors. What are the, I mean, you have said you don't have a problem with all of the list, and that, you know, what you're having a problem with is the dark blot on the big sheet of white paper. So for the rest of the white paper, what expectations do you have of them, very quickly? You know,
the first thing when you're taking up a job, for example, is to ask what the expectations are, right? And to match the tools, the skill sets with the expectation. So an ambassador is the representative of a country who would have to do negotiations, he would have to do to promote trade, he would have to listen to the issues of the Nigerian community there, he would have to communicate effectively. So you're looking for a person whose temperament can carry that. So you're going to be analyzing the temperament of these people. And in the countries they are going to, most likely those are democracies. So if these people are already consistently anti-democratic people, you are most likely going to have crisis in those places. If there are people who are already biased in terms of ethnicity, religion, and the rest, you're going to have issues coming from that country where Nigerians would either prefer to die in the hands of the people of the country than go to their own embassy to mention. So the issue of qualification. Expectations is what I was asking. Yeah, so expectations, very quickly. You are expecting them to be able to drive trade. You're expecting them to be able to harmonize the Nigerian community. So those are the things that we should expect from our ambassador nominees. Yes. You have the same expectations of them?
The economic trade, I mean, the economy of the nation is crying for help. We want to see drivers of the economy and direct investment. You know, the issue of insecurity is at the front burner. We want to be able to see them engage countries that will help us and get the real help, not photo op, not optics, not propaganda, not propaganda, but we want to see concrete, measurable, tangible help. And like my friend did say, you know, let's stop this reactive measure, either security, economy, you know, social circle. We have this tendency to be reactive when we should be proactive. Channels is owned by John. All of you are on schedule. You know what will happen after this. You know, that's a proactive leadership, not reactive. Otherwise, you'll say, oh, sunrise is coming. We are not ready at 9. That's crazy.
Well, let us see, you know, just how, because I know that the presidency is, the president's special advisor on foreign affairs and protocol already responded. Well, let us see if we'll see further responses and exactly what happens at the National Assembly. But in the meantime, I have to thank you, gentlemen, for waiting in on this conversation. Comrade Inyeme Obong is the National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party. Thank you. And we have to thank you, Mr. Jacob Pele, who is the founder of TAF Africa, for coming on the program as well.
And we're proud of Channel because of your audacity to bring this kind of discourse. Congratulations.
We will continue to do our work as we ought to do. Well, we'll take a break now. When we come back, security is still very much on the front burner. We understand that there's been pounding of terrorist enclaves. This is in spite of the fact that there were also kidnappings recorded yesterday. So we'll be delving into that conversation when we return from this break. Please stay with us.
It is a stain on the Nigerian government that it took the threat of external intervention to rouse leaders to their responsibilities. It's a shame on our National Assembly that it took the United States Congress, not the representatives elected by Nigerians, to convene a hearing on the lived experiences of citizens suffering under insecurity, while those in Abuja were busy with politicking, posturing for political relevance, defecting from one political party to another in their desperate maneuvers to secure their seats ahead of the 2027 elections. It's indeed a shame that Nigeria's foreign affairs architecture failed all the while to mobilize Nigeria's dwindling diplomatic goodwill to secure international support for the war on terror, only to respond with excuses when that goodwill reached its lowest ebb. Within this short-term period, the following additional objectives must be pursued under the leadership of the President and the relevant members of his team. Number one, acknowledge the responsibility of the Nigerian state. This will entail the President owning the failure of government over the decades to protect the victims and survivors of banditry, terrorism, and other forms of insecurity. Number two, given context to the declaration of emergency on security, it is commendable that barely 24 hours after a recommendation by former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, that the President should declare a nationwide security emergency, the President has acted swiftly in his own way. In the short term, measures must be taken to prevent further mass kidnappings. In addition to beefing up security, number three, maximizing paramilitary structures. It is a fact that we do not have enough boots on the ground to respond to the demands across the country. The President's efforts at mass recruitment into the police and armed forces are meant to address this deficit.
The first question, what are all these wars among you? He's talking to the Christian community. Why all these wars? And that question, if you pose it, you can deal with the problem of Ukraine, you can deal with the problem of Sudan, you can deal with the problem of any and every conflict anywhere in the world. National unity or national cohesion applies or employs all kinds of strategies. So we're not going to become united because somebody has written a text that all of us should be united. No. Nations have to invent a myth. Usually, most people respond to unity by virtue of a myth. It's not about rationality. Sometimes the brain and the heart don't connect.
And joining us very quickly right now on this segment is Captain Bish Johnson, who is a retired captain in the United States Army. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Good morning.
Well, quite a number of things to quickly bring into context. We heard Pastor Tunde Bakari speaking there on what he believes needs to be done, and also Bishop Kuka, the Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, speaking about alternative dispute resolution, which some people might think there is no role for in the current situation that we're in, but he clearly sees a role for it. The last time you were here was in the immediate days after the threat issued by the United States government to what exactly was happening in Nigeria, to this genocide or no genocide within Nigeria. So let me quickly take you up on the number of activities that we have now seen. We've seen the U.S. Congress have a conversation on this particular congressional hearing on this matter. Nigeria has sent a delegation led by the National Security Advisor, and we have now seen the President declare a security emergency across the length and breadth of the country. Still, it would seem that we're still seeing pockets of, and we've seen quite a number of them, but we've been able to record some success, but it would seem that the attacks are not relenting. Are you satisfied with the trajectory of activities that we've seen since the United States issued the threat?
Okay. If you remember the last time I was here, I was very, very emphatic that Trump's comment presented an opportunity for us to utilize that period to acknowledge that we have problems, but that these are the things that we have done and these are the challenges that we are facing. Where can the United States come in and assist us? And I am glad that the administration sent in a delegation there and they met with them and discussed these issues. Now, let's not make any mistake about this. The previous administrations failed. You don't build a nation overnight. This president is not going to end this insecurity overnight. I am glad that he has taken some steps, particularly with the declaration of state of emergency in the security sector. However, it should go beyond declaration. We have to see the necessary steps that are taken to be able to make that emergency declaration worthwhile. Okay? It's not enough to say, I have declared a state of emergency. And it also doesn't mean that you must continue to throw money at the problem. Because that is one other thing that I have discovered that is a problem in Nigeria is that, look, security has become a commercial enterprise. There are people who are benefiting from insecurity in this country. And so they want us to continue to throw money at the problems. Because as more money we throw at the problems, the more they continue to benefit. We have to seek accountability for the money that we have spent already, even as we are taking steps, permanent steps that have to be sustained. Security is not a one-off thing. You do it today, tomorrow you relax. No, you must continue to up your game at every point in time. Anytime there's a lapse, the criminals will exploit that lapse and they will relaunch. So it has to be sustained. Whatever thing that is being done must be sustained by this administration, sustained by the administration after it, sustained by administration after it, and that is how we'll be able to come out of this problem.
You spoke about sustainability and you spoke about accountability, throwing money as a problem. And I think that is where Pastor Tunde comments come in, because he was quite disappointed in the National Assembly. He said he thinks that it is a shame that we had to wait for external intervention before we saw the National Assembly demand for some sort of accountability, which is something that they ought to have been doing. Do you see a role for them here?
Of course, look, I have experience from a country where their legislature works. The executive is not responsible for funding any of our military expenses. When we needed money, we went to the legislature. The legislatures are the ones who fund the military, not the executives. And the executive do not spend any money that was not appropriated by the legislature. And the legislature don't just spend the money. They come down. I remember when we were in Afghanistan and Iraq, there is virtually no month that we don't have a delegation from Congress coming to see how the troops are doing. And interacting with ordinary soldiers, not just interacting with the general officers commanding, right? Interacting with the foot soldiers to know exactly what is happening. Because that's another thing that is also happening, is that when all these top government officials come, they don't have interaction with the people who are actually supposed to be doing the job. They stay at the top, talk to the generals, the generals don't know what is happening on the ground. If you want to know what is happening on the ground, go and talk to that foot soldier who is actually there, who faces this threat and this danger on a daily basis. That's when you will get good idea of where you come in. Everything relies on the politicians, particularly the National Assembly. The National Assembly must not only appropriate funding, they must also oversight the funding that they are appropriated. Because we can't continue to throw money endlessly and we get nothing at the end. We will continue with this cycle of violence so long as we continue to do that same thing. Anytime there's a problem, you throw money at it and you don't get the outcome. And there are people within that value that are determined that they will continue to make fortune out of the misfortunes of other Nigerians.
But you know how it is. And when it comes to security spending and how it is always shrouded in secrecy, and even with members of the National Assembly, how sometimes it is, it is easier to get through the eye of a camel than for the camel to get through the eye of the needle than for you to be able to get an exact breakdown of what monies were actually used for without them being under some bogus cover and some bogus explanation as to how, you know, it's a security matter, we cannot go further than this.
Well, that there tells you why we are failing. And that there tells you that even the National Assembly is in cahoots with these people who are benefiting from this insecurity. I don't see what is classified in saying, look, this social amount of money was budgeted. Look, U.S. defense budget is a public document. Mm-hmm. It's made public. Everybody knows. First and foremost, they will debate it at the Congress. Everybody will see it. They will see what it's paying for. I don't see why that should be classified. You should not spend the people's money without the people knowing what you are spending their money on. This is the taxpayer's money. The taxpayer has a right, deserves to know where and what you are spending their money on. There is nothing about classification about that. Classification is only in terms of maybe the details of the equipment that you purchase, the softwares, the hardwares. You don't need to discuss all of those things. But Nigerians can know that, look, we are buying 5 F-35 fighter jets. They should know that, okay, we are buying 4 guided missile destroyers. They should know all these things. And this is how much each one of these cost us. This is how much we have budgeted for maintenance. This is how much we have budgeted for the platforms. There is nothing that is supposed to be secret about that. It's not complicated.
Well, I do know that, you know, when we look at the number of issues to really look at, Captain Bish Johnson, when we look at it, but for you, given where we currently are, given the results that we've seen yesterday, we did hear that the Air Force was pounding some bases of terrorists in certain parts. We also still heard that, you know, a church was attacked in Kogi State. A bride was kidnapped in Sokoto State. A bride and her bridesmaid were kidnapped in a community in Sokoto State. So we still see these pockets here and there. Given where we are with some of the steps we're making to try and correct and get back our security architecture, what more do you think we need to be doing now? What in the next couple of weeks, where should we be at if you were to give, you know, a quick look forward?
Okay, that in itself is also a problem, in the sense that each time we have problems, we just want, you know, just quick fix solutions. And then 1 month after, we are back to the same problem again. I don't subscribe to quick fixes. I subscribe to sustained strategic planning solutions that will permanently resolve the problem.
Do you want to give us an example of one in about 30 seconds?
An example of one is that, look, we have to look at our borders. Our borders are too porous. Our neighbors are too destabilized, whether it's in Chad or Niger or the Sahel or Libya. So long as those borders remain porous, we will be running in a circle, because if we fix what is inside, the outsiders will come in again and the thing will continue. And if you look at the hotspots where these problems are taking place, they are usually in those states where you have these natural resources, mineral resources. Anywhere you have illicit mining activities, there's always insecurity, because now all the warlords will want to create their own territory, and in so doing, problems will be, security problems will emerge. So we have to look at, and unfortunately, some of those states are border states. So we have to take seriously our border management and control. Secure them. If we need to build fence, the former chief of defense staff was even going in that direction. If we need to build fence in some certain places, let's build fence. Let us also review our ECOWAS protocols of free movement. The world has changed, and we must also change as the world is changing. If those protocols of free movement are no longer serving our people, remember, I listened to your last people that were here, and everybody knows it, that the #1 responsibility of government, that's the primary assignment of government, protection of lives and property. Every other thing is secondary. So if we have to review those protocols that allow influx of people into our country, that we don't know what they're coming here to do, let us do that.
All right, I think it's a fine place to leave it. Captain Bish Johnson is a retired captain in the U.S. Army. Thank you so much for speaking with us this morning. He's also a national security and defense strategist. Thank you once more for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's how we wrap it up this beautiful Monday morning. And, well, thank you so much for watching. I'm Maokwe Ogun-Yusuf.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Business Morning is at the top of the hour. Enjoy the rest of your day.